Namaskaram. Shuklam Bardram Vishnum Sashivarnam Sadurbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shruti Smruti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Namaskaram to everyone. With Sashtanga Namaskarams to Jagat Guru Shankaracharya, Shri Shri Mahasannidhanam Bharati Tirtha Mahaswamiji, and Jagat Guru Shri Shri Sannidhanam Vidushekara Bharati Mahaswamiji, with utmost gratitude and respect to my parents, I endeavor to start today's proceedings. There are many special days in any culture based on the experience of that particular geography and culture. In our culture, called as Sanatana Dharma, the role of one particular guru is of paramount importance, particularly in reinstating the principles of Sanatana Dharma in this Bharadam and in guiding crores of people in the centuries to come. We refer to the great guru, Sri Adi Shankaracharya, born about 1200 years ago in the Punya Kshetram of Kaladi in Kerala, and went on to become the most revered guru for times to come. Today is our Guru Sri Adi Shankara's birth anniversary, called as Sri Shankara Jayanti, which falls on Shukla Bhaksha Panchami Tithi in Vaishaga month. The Guru Adi Shankara, considered to be an avatar of Lord Sadashiva himself, spent 32 golden and splendorous years in this earth, and within such a short span, Sri Shankara Bhagavatpada has blessed posterity with a large number of invaluable compositions. These can be grouped under three broad categories. The first category, meant for the intellectually most advanced, comprises his commentaries, which are called Bhashyas, on the Upanishads, Brahma Sutra, and the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The second category consists of independent works known as Prakarana Granthas, which expound the gist of the Upanishads in simple language. These vary in length from half a verse to 1000 verses. In the third category fall devotional hymns. Nirvana Shatkam is a Prakarana Grantha consisting of 6 verses. Prakarana is a text which explains some particular aspects of the Shastra and deals with certain secondary questions arising out of the explanations given. He traveled across India thrice and was a great influence over many a people and could transform the lives of many. He established 4 Amnaya Pithas in the Bharata Desam, Sringeri in south, Puri in east, Dwaraka in west, and Badrikashrama in north. These Amnaya Pitams have been doing a great service through the successive pontiffs who have maintained the pristine culture established by Sri Adi Shankara. The Avichinna Guru Parampara, the unbroken chain of successive gurus of Sringeri Mutt, is a classic example of an institution established by the Guru and going strong more than 1200 years too. Friends, let us imagine the great vision, purpose, principles with which Sri Adi Shankara has established these mutts or pitams. The simple fact that today in 2021, we are able to read and know about the principles of Sanatana Dharma and the Advaita philosophy, it is imperative that we need to all the time fall at the feet of the Guru for showing us the path and enabling our journey as seekers. As seekers and students of the Guru, it is our humble endeavor since last year to bring certain aspects of the Guru Sri Adi Shankara to the larger audience who may want to know about the Guru. We are very clear that we do not claim to be of any authority of these studies, and neither we are qualified for that. It is just a curiosity to take the shadow of the great Guru to a large number of people. And even if one person from this august audience is able to take this thought and use it for their personal transformation with the blessings of the Guru, our effort will become Purnam. We have taken all efforts to bring certain level of authenticity to the information that is being discussed here. And if there is any error, that will be purely unintentional and inadvertent, and we are open and ready to be corrected. We salute and bow to the august audience who have taken their time to be here on this online event. And we are conscious that most of you are very much aware of our Guru and his teachings. We seek your best wishes for the smooth conduct of this program. With this, today, we will be taking one of the greatest works of Sri Adi Shankaracharya called Nirvana Shatkam, also known as Atma Shatkam. Madhavan sir.
Namaskaram to everybody. As Krishnan said, the Nirvana Shatkam is considered to be the most sophisticated and succinct exposition of Sri Shankara's Advaita philosophy. It is popular with all those who feel drawn to the practice of Vedantic spiritual practices, and they memorize and regularly chant it. It is also recited on important occasions in temples, prayer meetings, and satsangs. It is of special significance and importance because it is a dhyana stotra, a hymn for meditation. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa himself used to like the Nirvana Shatkam, and it was sung for him by Swami Vivekananda just a few months before Sri Ramakrishna attained Mahasamadhi. These verses are also said to have helped some of the great revolutionaries of our freedom struggle, who were at times subjected to physical torture in jails. Because these verses were chanted and their meanings brought to their mind, they switched off their minds from the suffering of the physical body. Such is the power of these verses. These verses are simple and easy to understand, and yet subtle and beautiful in the rhythmic cadence. At the central theme of the Nirvana Shatakam is Shankara's own intimate experience of the bliss of self-realization. It should not be dealt with as a literary composition to be analyzed and discussed. It is not even to be merely memorized and repeated, but is to be understood and reflected upon so that its message can be absorbed.
It is said that Shankaracharya, when he was a young boy of 8, was seeking to find his Guru. He came across a sage, Swami Govinda Bhagavatpada, who was indeed the Guru he was looking for. When the sage asked him, "Who are you?" Sri Shankara answered with this beautiful Shatkam, which means a poem of 6 stanzas. This poem is known as the Nirvana Shatkam or Atma Shatkam. Shatkam means 6, and the word Nirvana means freedom or liberation. It is thus a hymn of 6 verses on liberation. It is also called as Atma Shatkam, or 6 verses on the nature of the self. Sri Govinda Bhagavatpada was pleased with this answer and accepted Sri Shankara as his disciple. This is the background in which this particular Shatkam was told at the very young age of 8 to his Guru.
Before starting on the Nirvana Shatkam, let us understand its basic theme. It is attaining bliss absolute through self-realization. All of us experience joy and sorrow in life. The suffering and sorrow arise because we identify ourselves to matter. Matter is subject to change, and change can cause pain, like if we lose someone dear, or suffer loss of wealth, or if our health becomes bad or deteriorates. But if we realize that we are something far above and beyond matter, we shall be free of pain and sorrow.
What you are saying is that we are in reality the Atman, which is described as Satyam, Jnanam, and Anantam, that is, eternal existence, pure consciousness, and infinite.
Yes. But let's go a little deeper. There is a primordial spirit, which we call Brahman. As you mentioned, this Brahman is defined as Satyam, Jnanam, and Anantam. It is also bliss absolute because it is immutable, that is not subject to any change. This Brahman permeates all living things as the indwelling spirit, known as the Atman, which is the true self. And whoever knows the Atman becomes Brahman. That means this Atman is within ourselves, only that we do not realize or experience it. The gist of this idea is stated by Swami Vivekananda. You are children of God, the sharers of immortal bliss, holy and perfect beings. Ye divinities on earth, you are not matter, ye are not bodies. The Nirvana Shatkam is at once a tool for meditation and a roadmap to realize his Atman. Sri Shankara's roadmap to realize his Atman is negating all that which is not Atman. It is said in the Upanishads that the self is to be described as not this, not this. Sayesha neti neti iti Atma.
Madhavan sir, this sounds much like solving a multiple choice question by eliminating all incorrect choices. We can see why Sri Shankara negates what is not the Atman in the first 3 lines in each of the first 5 verses. And he ends each stanza of the Nirvana Shatkam with Chitananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I am existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute. I am he, Shivoham, Shivoham. Incidentally, Shivoham does not mean that he claims to be Lord Shiva. Shivam is auspiciousness. Now, shall we now move on to the Shatkam? I am neither the mind, nor the intellect, nor the ego, nor the mind stuff. I am neither the body, nor the changes of the body. I am neither the senses of hearing, taste, smell, or sight, nor am I the ether, the earth, the fire, the air. I am existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute. I am he, Shivoham, Shivoham.
Sri Shankara starts with the Antakarana or the inner cause. It is what really drives us. It is actually the whole psychological process, the source of thinking, the mind, heart, or conscience. This one Antakarana is known by 4 different names: Manas, Buddhi, Ahankara, and Chittam, according to the different functions. When the mind cogitates, it's called Manas. When it comes to a decision, it is called Buddhi. When it stores memories, it is called Chittam. When it identifies itself with each of these functions, it is known as Ahankara. So I would like to point out here that Ahankara does not really mean arrogance or pride. It is purely our image of what we are. Now, in the first line of this first stanza, we are told not to identify ourselves with these activities of the mind so that we may not be affected by the joys and sorrows that arise in the mind.
The most common delusion is identification of the self with the body. I repeat, the most common delusion is identification of the self with the body. The second line negates this identification. Similarly, the third line negates the identification of the self with the 5 great elements, that is the Panchabhuta, Akasha, space, Vayu, air, Agni, fire, Apa, water, and Bhumi, earth. Thus, identification with the physical body is negated.
Sangyo navai panchavayu nava saptadhatu nava panchakosha nava panipadam nachopastapayu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham.
I am neither the prana nor the 5 vital airs. I am neither the materials of the body nor the 5 sheaths. Neither am I the organs of action nor object of the senses. I am existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute. I am he, Shivoham, Shivoham.
Prana is vitality. It is what keeps the gross body alive. The energy that we feel in ourselves is due to the prana moving through the body. It also energizes the sense organs. As the prana performs the 5 physiological functions, it is called Panchavayu or 5 vital airs, each performing a different function. They are prana, dhyana, apana, samana, and udana. Prana is the respiratory system. Apana controls the excretory and reproductive systems. Vyana, the circulatory system. Udana, the final ejection of prana or life from the body. And samana takes care of the digestive system. All these are only air. They are like electricity. They work, but they do not know that they are working. Thus, they are insentient and therefore cannot be Atman, which is pure consciousness. So, we are told not to identify ourselves with the prana and the Panchavayu, in the first line. The 7 dhatus mentioned in the second line are the constituents of the body, such as rasa, that is the body fluids, mamsa. How's my audio? Is it okay?
That's fine, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. The 7 dhatus mentioned in the second line are the constituents of the body, such as rasa, that is the body fluids, mamsa, flesh, rakta, blood, meda, fat, asti, that is the bone, majja, bone marrow, and twak, the skin. They are composed of physical matter and subject to change. So in the second line, we are told that we are not to identify with them. The third line says that we are not the 5 organs of action, karmendriyas. They are vak, or the ability to speak, pani, that is the hands, which have the ability to grasp, padav, the 2 feet, which give us the ability to move, upastha, the genitals, which is the ability to procreate, and vayu, that is the anus, which is the ability to evacuate.
The second line again also says that we are not the pancha kosha or the 5 sheets. Let us now see what they are. The 5 sheets are described in the Taittiriya Upanishad. They wield our understanding of the Atman. Each sheath is inside the previous sheath and activates and controls it. The physical body is the outermost sheath. It is called the Annamaya Kosha, or sheath of food, because it is nourished by food and becomes food after death. Within this is the Pranamaya Kosha, or sheath of vital air, which is made up of the vital air and the 5 karmendriyas, organs of action, namely speech, hands, feet, the genitals, and the organ of excretion. Inside this sheath is the Manomaya Kosha, or the sheath of the mind, which is made up of the mind and 5 jnanendriyas, that is organs of perception, namely ear, eye, and the senses of smell, taste, and touch. The 4th sheath is Vijnanamaya Kosha, or the sheath of the intellect. This consists of the intellect, or buddhi, and the 5 jnanendriyas, organs of perception. The innermost sheath is the Anandamaya Kosha, or sheath of bliss, which is actually represented by Chittam.
We now come to the psychological aspects.
I have neither aversion nor attachment, neither greed nor delusion, neither egotism nor envy, neither dharma nor moksha. I am neither desire nor objects of desire. I am existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute. I am he, Shivoham, Shivoham.
We now come to the psychological aspects that is, the mind, which is influenced by its latent tendencies or vasanas. Its interactions with the external world are emotional. That is why it loves or hates, desires and values, is arrogant and envious. It is fickle and changing constantly. So, the first two lines repudiate the mind. The third line negates the four goals of life, that is the purusharthas. These are dharma, which is the acquisition of merits, artha, which is acquiring wealth, kama, which is enjoying pleasures, and four, moksha, which is seeking liberation. While it is easy to understand renouncing of artha and kama, repudiation of dharma and moksha is difficult to accept. But we need to remember that these are meant to help one to realize the self, and therefore they are not really required for a realized soul who has crossed that stage.
Madhavan sir, you mentioned vasana. It is nowhere appearing in this sloka. What is vasana?
Well, vasana is actually the imprint carried forward from earlier lives. We all have them in varying forms and intensities. Broadly, there are three types of vasana. Loka vasana, which is wanting attention and importance and having power over others. Deha vasana, which is liking to our bodies, wanting to look good. And Shastra vasana, which is an excessive need for knowledge just for the sake of knowing. You can easily see how it can impact one's behavior.
Punyam na papam na saukyam na dukkham na mantro na tirtham na veda na yajna aham bhojanam naiva bhojyam na bhokta Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham.
I am neither sin nor virtue, neither pleasure nor pain, nor temple nor worship, nor pilgrimage nor scriptures, neither the act of enjoying the enjoyable nor the enjoyer. I am existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute. I am he, Shivoham, Shivoham.
The level next to the manas is the buddhi, that is the intellect. It is also influenced by the vasanas. On the basis of these tendencies, we discriminate between good and bad. So we perform good deeds like worship, pilgrimages, learning the scriptures, and oblations to purify ourselves. In the first two lines, Sri Shankara says, these deeds are not needed for him because a realized soul is already pure and untainted. In the third line, he refutes his identity as an object of enjoyment, or as the act of enjoyment, or as the one who enjoys, because all these are in the realm of the body and the senses, and the Atman can only be a witness.
Madhavan sir, the third line seems to be a bit confusing. For the benefit of everyone, can you please further explain it lucidly?
Okay. See, the easiest way to explain this is to go to its source. There is a verse in the Mundaka Upanishad which says, two birds which are inseparable companions perch on the same tree, but one eats the fruit and the other looks on. The first bird is our individual self, feeding on the pleasures and pains of the world. The other is the universal self, silently witnessing all. That's what Sri Shankara means. He is not the person who is enjoying the pleasures or the pleasure itself or the act of enjoyment. He is just a silent witness to the whole thing. That's the Atman.
How profound.
चिदानन्दरूपा शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपा शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपा शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्
I have neither death nor fear of death, nor any caste, nor was I ever born, nor had I parents, friends, and relations. I have neither guru nor disciple. I am existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute. I am he, Shivoham, Shivoham.
Here, Sri Shankara repudiates all connection to birth and death, which the physical body undergoes, because the Atman has no birth and no death. Therefore, he says that he has no father or mother or kith or kin. And as he is not a body-mind complex, he has no relationships either. He has thus freed himself from all attachments.
विकल्पो निराकाररूपो विभुत्वाच सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणां न च सङ्गतं नैव मुक्तेर्न मेयः चिदानन्दरूपा शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपा शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपा शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्
I am untouched by the senses. I am neither mukti nor noble. I am without form, without limit, beyond space, beyond time. I am in everything. I am the basis of the universe. Everywhere am I. I am existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute. I am he, Shivoham, Shivoham.
Having ruled out all possibilities, Sri Shankara finally reveals who he really is. In the first line, he says he is the changeless and formless Atman. In the second line, he declares that he is omnipotent and omnipresent and pervades all and inhabits everything. Because of this, he says he is not unconnected to everything. But at the same time, being free of all bondage, he has no liberation or limitation. This profound meaning of the Nirvana Shatakam may be summed up by Swami Vivekananda's well-known words. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest the divinity within by controlling nature, both external and internal.
In the first 5 shlokas, which is so far, the Guru has been saying what he is not. And here in this 6th sloka, he starts by saying who he is. This is a huge transition and a swift transition. How does this transition happen, Madhavan sir?
Well, it's a simple question which is virtually impossible to answer. But let me attempt it. The clue to this is when he said he is not the object of enjoyment or the enjoyer or the act of enjoyment. That is the two birds story. I suppose you remember it. Now, the thing is very simple. The concept is, if something is known, you cannot be it. That is, if you look at it in simple grammatical terms, a sentence will have a subject, a verb, and an object. Now, the subject, verb, and object are three different things. So, when you say that I'm not the object or the verb, you can understand. When he says he is not the subject either, he is none of these tendencies, and he is the independent witness to the whole thing, who observes the whole thing. That is why, at that point, I think the transformation is happening. He has shifted from being someone who is connected to the body and mind to someone who is just a silent observer.
Now, that definitely is helping us understand this transition slightly better. But definitely, this is at a different level of intellect to understand this transition, sir. Now, coming to one final question from me, Madhavan sir. We have listened to this Shatkam where very clear differentiation between the body and the Atman has been explained, and Sri Shankara really has given the importance of how to perceive oneself. Do you seriously believe that we can all become realized souls? If not, what is the point of all this?
Well, we have seen many realized souls in our lifetime. And I'm sure there will be many, many more to come. I do not think that Sri Shankara and Vivekananda happened by accident. They are, or must have been, the result of many births of such spiritual practice. Chanting the Nirvana Satkam or any other hymn for that matter and meditating on them may not make any of us realize souls. But it will prepare us for a spiritual journey which could at some distant point in time lead to realization. Remember what we said about the Vasana? That's what applies here. Also, more practically, if we constantly and sincerely start practicing meditation, chanting the verses, and reflecting on them in this way, the mind slowly acquires calmness and clarity. I think this by itself is an immediate benefit. I would say that is the main takeaway from this session. Thank you.
Now, that is really great to listen to you on this. Dear friends who have all assembled here, that is a short presentation about the Nirvana Shatkam, the 6 shlokas, and with the explanations. Now the time is now open for any questions to us. And of course, you can, if you want to send any written feedback, you can use this particular email ID. Stop sharing.